What's going on? My name's Kevin in Maryville, Tennessee, and today we're going to take a gander at this back porch project that I'm screening using the SNAPP screen. I decided to go with this for a number of reasons. Of everything on the market, this was very simple. It was low profile. It was going to fit well with the vision that I had for this porch. So today we'll look at a few things, how I installed it, some of the features that I chose to use for it, and how the screen goes in. We'll tell you what we think. I decided to mount this inside the opening with butt joint corners. I did not have a miter saw. I was just going to use a basic hacksaw, and the butt joint straight cuts were what I found to work best with that hacksaw, as well as cut down on some of the metal shavings during the cut. Now, I did decide to go with the aluminum material. The reason was that this opening is about 105 roughly by about 92 inches. So it was a rather large opening. The aluminum is a little more rigid, and I think the recommendation was if you're going for a big solid opening, to use this due to its added strength. If I would have split the opening or had a smaller opening, I probably would have gone with the PVC, but this really was what was going to fit my needs as far as the large opening. Now, the way this railing was constructed, it did not give me a good option for mounting on the bottom. I decided, instead of doing concrete fasteners directly to the concrete, I would add this spacer in that would give me a good ledge to just mount this straight there, and then line it up as well on the side piece as well as the top. And as you can see, this bottom piece, being roughly 105 inches, was a little bit longer than one solid piece. So I'm going to cut in just a small end here, and it goes together just flush on the ends, and following installation requirements for 1 inch to the end on the last fastener. That'll go in there and hold just fine. So next day, we're taking a gander at this back porch project. I've got both openings installed with the SNAPP screen, and I think I was more efficient on the second opening after learning how to get my system down for making cuts and measurements, and the hacksaw worked fine. I had a limited number of cuts. I think if I was going to make more cuts and had more openings, I might look to use a miter saw, but just for what I was using and the limited number of cuts that I had, the hacksaw it worked fine. As far as fastening to the spacer piece, the installation requirements are no more than 1 inch from the end of a piece, and then no more than 12 inches apart. For a 94-inch piece, I just did 94 minus 2 because I had one on each end come in an inch, and then it spaces out to about 11 and a half roughly. So I would just pre-drill every 11 and a half inches a hole, and that worked out for there. And then the 11-inch piece, I just did one on each end, 1 inch from the edge. I just did the same math on that one as far as taking the length of the piece, subtracting 2 inches, and then dividing evenly. So we just finished installing the screen on the first opening. A couple things I ran into was I stretched too much fabric at the top, which barely left me just a little tab to be able to pull it tight at the bottom. So on the next one, I'm going to make sure that I pull less of an overhang at the top so that I have enough to do the bottom. And following the instructions, the order that it instructs is top first, then the bottom, and then the dominant hand, which would be the right side, and then the left side. The spline takes some force to go in with the tool, but nothing that was too difficult. The corners are pretty tricky when cutting. I did notice that it takes a little bit of finesse in the corners to install the spline, and then cut that out with a box cutter or just some type of razor or knife. So one tip that I have is try by all means to get it as straight as you can, but if you're not perfectly square or perfectly level when it comes to the screen lines and the little grids, it's not that noticeable. I know mine wasn't perfectly straight just because of the excess piece that I cut off. It got thinner when it went to one side, but really, even looking at it from the side and looking at real close, trying to look at the edges and the top, it's not 100% crucial that you're perfectly square as far as installing this. It really corrects itself and isn't that critical. Now, by all means, get it as straight as you can, but one thing I found was don't wear yourself out trying to make sure that those squares are perfect. And the spline itself, putting that in, that's what's going to take all the slack and the wrinkles out of this. And when you install the spline and pull everything tight, you won't really notice any of that after. So to do the next opening, basically I measured the screen out and I'm gonna leave about 5 inches on the edges. And the way that I'm gonna ensure that I have enough at the bottom is I'm gonna pull the excess screen up past this piece of wood. I have a good line here straight across where this wood was attached, and so I'm going to pull the excess just above that, and that should give me an even 1.5 inches or so to go across, which should leave me enough excess down at the bottom. This part, as far as getting started up here in the corner, you need another set of hands because somebody needs to be holding the weight of the screen up while you get the spline started and just support that so it doesn't rip out before you get enough in. So I'm gonna start on this one. I'm gonna start again at the top. I'm gonna go all the way across. I'm gonna go down, do the bottom, and then I'll do the right side, and I'll do the left side. So here's how I got this one started going in. I've just got it clamped up here to hold it, but this piece of wood here is giving me a good guide as far as pulling it up. And then what I've been doing is just rolling the screen, starting the screen first to get it set in there, and then just coming behind it and working that spline in with that screen. It's getting a little dark on us, but I was able to finish up the second screen opening. I believe it came out a little bit straighter than the first one as I used a guide trim piece to keep things level at the top, and was able to come out with pretty equal amount of excess on top and bottom. But again, not perfectly straight, but it didn't end up mattering. Again, all the slack, all the wrinkles came out just fine on that, and it really turned out. The excess here, I'll just lay the blade in that track and cut it, and I found the best way to cut it is just to pull a little bit tight so that way it's easier just to come loose. So we wrapped up this back porch project. I had to order one more piece of snap screen. I miscalculated after I finished out that door, that PCA door for that transom up there. One thing I noticed was the smaller opening proved to be more difficult than the larger openings. The screen was harder to get in and it was harder to set all that, but we wrapped up and I'm extremely pleased with how the snap screen product went in and how the installation process was and how simple it made this task of screening the back porch in. That snap screen proved to be an easy do-it-yourself simple task and solution for my needs. So overall, I'm pleased. I would recommend the snap screen so far. I'm happy to get the snap screen in time for spring and able to get out and enjoy this porch more. And finally, I was really pleased with all the information that's available on the website, all of the resources and videos to help with installation and just learning about the product.